Hello, everyone, and welcome to Diversity Matters, the show where we celebrate the people and organizations driving inclusion, innovation, and impact across the real estate industry. I'm your host, Teresa Palacios Smith, Chief Inclusion and Engagement Officer for Home Services of America. As we celebrate Black History Month, we take the time to honor the legacy, contributions, and leadership of trailblazers who have shaped our industry and our communities. On today's episode, I'm honored to welcome one of those leaders whose work sits at the heart of one of the most important conversations in housing, expanding access to homeownership and creating pathways to generational wealth. So, joining us today is Ashley Thomas III, the newly installed president of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, also known as NAREB, an organization with a powerful legacy of advocacy, education, and community impact. Ashley's leadership comes at a pivotal time as our industry continues to navigate affordability challenges, real estate rates, interest rates, and the ongoing need to close the racial wealth gap. So today I'm going to be talking about his vision, NAREB's priorities, and the collective role that we all play in moving this work forward. So, Ashley, welcome to Diversity Matters. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Teresa. It's always an honor to be with you. It's great to be as we move through these pivotal times that you're stating. It's always great to have friends right there with you, and you've always been that for us. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate that. First of all, congratulations on your role as president of NAREB. I know how exciting and also emotional it is to be a president of an organization as well known as NARAB. As you step into this moment of leadership, tell me a little bit how you got there, how you even got into real estate, and then what does the responsibility to you it mean to you personally, and what's your vision, and what you're most excited to advance during your term, which I know is a 2-year term.
Yes, 2-year term, so it comes as quick as it goes, so you try to do as much work as you can. I'll start off with how I got into real estate. I actually worked for a mortgage loan servicing company for many years, and I worked in their loss mitigation department. While I was there, that was the early 2000s, late 90s. While I was there, I was really understanding people were losing their homes to foreclosure. Sometimes we couldn't help them. I wanted to get on the side of the business that could help on the front side. Sometimes it was too late to help individuals. So for me, getting into this business was more than an opportunity to grow wealth. It was also an opportunity to really work with families, teach them how to get into the property, financial literacy the right way, how to keep a home in terms of legacy. So that was very important to me. And then I fell in love with NAREB in about 2009. I found that out and I became a local board president shortly after that. So.
Well, first of all, that you have that background of the loss mitigation side, which I didn't know. That's the toughest. I mean, I don't know how you handle that, but then to realize, hey, I really want to create opportunities and really educate people on how to keep them at home, because that is a key part of the sustainable process of homeownership, which a lot of people don't realize is the most important key, even after we're gone, which I know NAREB does so beautifully about making sure that we keep those homes in our family. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes because that's a situation that I know the Black community, the Latino community, we all face when it comes to planning, right?
Correct.
So NAREP has a powerful legacy centered on making sure that we are expanding Black homeownership and economic mobility. So what are the key priorities you're focused on right now to ensure that mission continues to grow and to meet the urgency of today's housing landscape, which again, we've got a lot of barriers, right, into the opportunity of owning a home.
Yeah, absolutely. So our theme for this year is closing the gap, advocacy, affordability, and access. And you touched on the racial wealth gap. Obviously, we all believe that homeownership is the number one driver to building wealth in America. So we have to really look at that. And so we're very committed on all levels of what closing that gap looks like. And so let's, start off with advocacy. These are our drivers. So advocacy is a big issue for us, but we're not looking at like advocacy from a traditional standpoint of walking the heels of Congress, trying to get laws that might take 6 years. We're also really doing a deep dive on what does the industry look like today in terms of lending guidelines? What can we look at to open the credit boxes and do it responsibly, but also look at some things. I laugh because I'll go back and think about 20 plus years ago, not to age myself, but when somebody was in a transition from a job, it might take a couple of weeks, they might take 3 weeks before they get their first paycheck. Now we live in a different economy, right? So it's a gig economy. Today, you want to go drive for a delivery service or whatnot, you can get a paycheck tonight. And so our guidelines in terms of cash flow, how we analyze credit worthy borrowers, that has evolved, but they have not caught up with where we are as an economy today. So, that's a big push for us as we move forward to really identify what areas can we really advocate for in terms of FHFA, HUD, and the guidelines that are out there so we can really catch up to today's economy. So that's one of our big pushes for us. Affordability would be our next driver. That's a big issue. I know we're going to talk a little bit about our affordable homeownership tour that we'll be doing, but affordability is a big issue for us. And so we want to look at that. And I know you talked about interest rates and all of those things as well. So we have to get more into creative entrances into home ownership. We definitely look at the barriers. And the last thing is, even if the properties are affordable, do we have access, right? And so we want to look at and make sure that there's actually opportunity for access. And so it really, I really look at the market and we look at like statistics that say average first-time home buyer is 40 years old today. 5 years ago, it was 33 years old. But I really am, my heart goes out to the next generation that wants to get into our industry, right? And so as the aging of home buyers is going up, the opportunities for newer, younger people to get in our industry aren't there as much. And so I'm very concerned about that.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, because obviously we want the communities that we're serving to match us, right?
Correct.
And what is the homeownership rate? For those who don't know, for right now in the US for the community itself. So what are you looking at trying to grow so that we know that, when Dr. Boyce, and we'll talk about him in a minute, was speaking, we talked about the opportunities there. He talked about the opportunities there are and how we can actually get there. So where are we now and where are we hoping that we can get to?
So right now we're at 43% nationally is our home ownership rate for the Black community. Obviously, we've spiked to 45%. We've fallen back down to 43%. And so our focus right now is to keep what we have and continue to add to that, right? It does us no good. Obviously we're very concerned about foreclosure rates being up year over year. But it does us no good to put one new family into a home and two are exiting out of home ownership. And so that's our number one focus in terms of where we want to go percentage wise. We want to just maintain and continue to grow at a steady rate. And I think this back and forth has been a challenge for us. So we want to make sure that we're moving forward, but not falling backwards. And so, and a lot of that has to do with the economy and those types of areas. But there is some great opportunity. And so we as an organization are looking at cities specifically where maybe the homeownership rate in this particular city is 37%. What can we do in this particular city to get it up to 43, right? Nationally, we're 43, but we will also want to take this into a grassroots movement and really key in on areas where we can make the greatest impact.
And there are so many pockets, and we're going to cover the 8 city tour that you're going to, that you are involved in, that will help, right, increase the opportunities. And one thing you did say that I think is really important, in case people didn't hear this, is our gig economy, right? There are so many workers, as you mentioned, that are now, able to pull resources that are different from where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so making sure that credit access is available for those independent contractors because that's what we are,
Right.
and that the parameters for qualifications are changing to match our industry, right? Our communities all across the country. I think that is very pivotal and actually very smart from the purpose of where we want to get to in order to get opportunities into homeownership. So thank you for advocating on that on our behalf. And I recently attended NAREB's Midwinter Conference, and I was truly, honestly impressed by the depth of content and the momentum that you had across the organization, huge attendance. And
Yes.
one area that stood out was the continued growth of Wire, because obviously women in, is important for me because the real estate industry is largely made up of women, right? But women investing in real estate, which is Wire, right? Which began under Madam Lydia Pope. So I want to give her a shout out, and also Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, who continue to advance the growth in that area. And I loved hearing Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's message. So as you build on this leadership and the leadership that you've had, the footsteps that you're following in, how important it is to stay intentional about investing in the growth of women within NAREB, and what role do you see Wire playing in the shape of the next generation of leaders? And you also have a Wire for men too, because you made that mistake of saying Wire is fire.
Yes, I did. So no, but so we'll call it Meyer for the men and Wire for the women. But my predecessors, past President Lydia Pope came with the idea, then past President Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose elevated it. And so as I was coming into office as the first male president since its inception, everyone wanted to know, well, what do you want? Are you going to keep it? Or are you not going to keep it? And so absolutely our industry is approximately 65 to 70% women. And so I just added a component to it, and we want to continue to grow. But I think getting into management and getting into broker ownership, getting into leadership positions is pivotal for our growth in terms of where we're going to go as an industry. And so it just has to be reflective on all levels. And so not just the salesperson level, but broker owners and everything like that. So we definitely are taking a concerted effort to make sure that those opportunities and those areas are opening up to our women. So
You did an incredible job, and you
thank
did it so beautifully. Even when you were there, I have to give you kudos because,
you.
again, just a great event altogether. And it is Myra. I should know that. All right, so let's talk about this national tour that you've got coming up, which everyone is excited about. You've launched. It's ambitious. It's going to be a bus tour focused on awareness, education, and action, and making sure that we can actually change and move that table, right? So, what inspired this initiative, and what impact are you hoping that the communities that you are going to be in will feel as it unfolds?
I think I draw a lot of my leadership development through NAREB has done a great job in making me look at things from a different perspective. Being a top producer, and then being taught that there's a direct correlation between policy and production, was something that was very pivotal to my career. I would say that when I looked at the 8 city bus tour, we were saying, well, what can we do in terms of a grassroots movement? I thought about it, and as broker owners, and a lot of times we'll talk to our agents and we'll say, yes, we understand social media is there, we understand technology advances are there, but there's something that cannot replace, the boots on the ground. There's something that cannot replace the door knocking or the cold calling or whatnot, right? And so we wanted to take that thought process into being intentional about going into cities. So we're launching our 8 city bus tour on April 25th. It'll be 8 cities over 8 days. We will be stopping at hotels, so we're not that grassroots, sleeping on the bus, right? But what do they call it, glamping or whatnot, right? So we are going to be on our 8 city bus tour, but it is going to be a distance. So we're starting in Philadelphia on the 25th. We will go to Baltimore, Maryland, Detroit, Michigan, Gary, Indiana, Kansas City, Missouri. We'll come all the way down back a little bit to Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, Arkansas, and then we will conclude in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the thought process here is to really take an opportunity to take education to the people and to, and talk about the importance of homeownership, get some excitement that the homeownership tour is coming to a city near you, have people out and have people getting a pre-approved on the spot and doing a continuance. So we don't want to do a one-day event in the city. It will, our local boards that are the boots on the ground are going to continue to hold the hands of our community all the way through. And I think what's very important for our communities is, somebody might not be ready today, but I'm gonna hold your hand for 18 months and I'm gonna make sure that you get into that property. And so that level of commitment is where the realtors are going to meet the community, and I'm excited about it.
Well, you've done such a great job in the strategy behind it because what you've done is created where opportunities where you can actually get into home ownership because
Correct.
you've got the affordable pricing in the cities that you've selected. You talked about the under numbers in the home ownership side.
Yeah.
You're partnering with organizations, your local people that really know the communities very well, can get people in to the events and can really expand the opportunities when they see others get
Mhm.
excited about home ownership. So I'm telling you, I wish I could be on the bus with
You
you.
can.
I'm actually
It's open
I'm
for everyone can join.
yes, because I think that just the collaborative part of it is definitely going to make a huge difference. So, where do you see the greatest opportunities as we pivot into that for our industry partners to collaborate with NAREB to accelerate make a real meaningful change?
I think our greatest opportunity is in the collaboration, right? I think all of us want the same thing, and sometimes we really look at it. We have religious organizations wanting home ownership. We have practitioners wanting it, and so bringing us all to the table, we can identify and tackle one barrier at a time. And most of the barriers, to be honest, are impacting us all the same, right? And so I think when we're looking at the lending landscape, is very important to us. I know we're working on some policy things internally with regards to first-time home buyers. And I'll give you one. That I think is very personal to me. When I purchased my first home, trying to get the down payment was a challenge for me, right? And so was able to get it. My mother wasn't in a position to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give you this. Now, granted, through being in this position and learning and growing, I'm able to do that for my children, but I didn't have that same opportunity from my parents, right? And so, but when we take a step back and we look at it, we'll look at the financial landscape and say, if somebody needs to get assistance for down payment assistance, typically their interest rate is going to be higher. But if someone doesn't need assistance, their parents can give them the money, then their interest rate is not higher. And so we want to tackle that, right? Because neither consumer really had the money to go to the closing table. So let's talk about looking at things from a more fair lens, and then we can, and grow in that area. So I think that that's very important for us to be able to have those types of real conversation. And it's not to penalize anyone else. It's just to say, let's level the playing field because neither of the consumers or these potential buyers had the money to close. They both needed to go to another resource, whether it was internal in your family or was a nonprofit. One shouldn't be penalized for going to a nonprofit. And I think those are types of conversations will help us be able to grow together.
Very eye-opening and so key because it is so true. Why, it's no different, right? Except for, one has an advantage over the other. And what creates, these down payment assistance programs, which by the way, my daughter also, when she bought her first home, actually was able to get a down payment assistance, which really helped her in
Right.
being able to purchase the home she's in. And in markets where, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where the affordability factor is so difficult for that young person to get into that first home because when rents are so high, which a lot of people don't realize, hey, I don't know why people are having such a struggle. Well, number one, you're paying much higher rents, okay?
Right.
And the rent amounts are so difficult for you. It's taking 50% of your income in many cases or more. And then you have to be able to support your family with the other cost and then you can't save. And so that's what is making it so difficult for people. And then you're not raising your income. People aren't getting paid more,
No.
right? To
Yeah.
accommodate with the cost of living. So I think when you factor all those things in, what you're doing to create opportunities and to see the leveling of that is really smart because that's what we have to do to be
Yeah.
creative on getting more people into homes,
Yeah.
which we are both extremely passionate about. So
Absolutely.
as you look at your success,
Mhm.
when you think about the leaders that have led this organization, and there have been some incredible leaders at NAREB. And for those that don't know, because one question I get a lot, and I think this is important, Ashley, for people to understand. Why did NAREB start? Because a lot of people say, well, why do we need different organizations, right?
Correct.
But I think it's important to understand the reason NAREB started, why you are a realtist, because I want to make sure that's clear. You're a realtist when you're part of NAREB, and why that was so important for you when you began this organization 165 years ago. Am I right?
No, we were founded in 1947, so
Okay,
we're
1940.
almost there. But yeah, so we're in our 79th year. Next year we celebrate our
Okay.
80th year. We're excited about it. I'll tell you that there's been some phenomenal leaders that have come before me, and I take a piece of each one of them and try to bring this into this market. It's funny, I'll come up with different ideas, and they're like, "No, we tried that in 1987," and we laugh about it. But the history that I'm able to get and the lessons that I'm forever teachable is what I always try to say. So I would, in 1947, let's look at it. And it's probably appropriate question that we're sitting in Black History Month to really look at when NAREB was founded in 1947, what was the landscape of America, right? There were Jim Crow laws, segregation was deeply rooted. The government was endorsing discriminatory actions. We could go to war, but we could not purchase a home, could not take care a part of FHA programs and different things like that. And so in 1947, at the same time, we couldn't even join professional organizations such as the National Association of Realtors at that time. And so we've come a long way. But in 1947, with all of that going on around you, we had black brokers during that time that their offices would get burned to the ground if they were trying to sell homes in areas that they, were not allowed to be in or whatnot. And so, but in all of that, the fortitude of our founders to be able to put an organization together with the intent of democracy and housing was just something that touched me very dearly. And I knew at that point I wanted to be a part of the organization when I found out about it. And I've never questioned since. I always tell people a true realtist doesn't look at the agenda. They know that they're going to the conference, right? They know that they're going to be able to do that. And so we have created a family. But, I'm so happy, that where we have come to in terms of this far. And some people will say, well, are you still needed? That, the Jim Crow is not here. We've had the passage of the Fair Housing Act. But, I would also counter to that and say, we still have financial institutions that are being fined for redlining activity. We still have appraisal bias issues. So we have things that are very near and dear to our community. And so even though we are partners with everyone else, we're fighting for the same thing. There are some things that are very unique to NAREB, and we'll continue to fight for those.
Well, and I think that when I see that or a question asked, that question, I'm like, well, when an organization can focus on growing Black home ownership,
Right.
you know, that's not that case in other groups, right? It's not their focus. And that's your focus. And
Correct.
that's what's critical and important. That's when you're not no longer needed. If there's someone else doing that. But that's what you're doing. It's you're really focusing on the community that needs it the most. So what would you like your legacy to be? So how would you measure, you moving that needle?
I think for me is, advocacy is a big part of ours in terms of legacy. I really don't get caught on that. I would say that for me, I wear the health of my members. So when we had a great midwinter last week, and so we had over 700 people show up to our conference. But what impacted me the most were the members that could not come because the market has been so strained on them. And so that's really my focus, right? And so I have a Christian faith. You leave the 99 99 to go get the one. I believe that in terms of my leadership, if we have a member that is not, that called me and said, unfortunately, I support you, President Thomas, but I'm not able to make it. I want to go back to them and say, hey, let's talk about your business. How can we elevate your business? I never want you to miss another conference. And so that's really what my focus is on. It's on a individual level, but in terms of the association, we're going to continue to grow. I stumbled on NAREB many years ago, and so I want to make sure that NAREB becomes a household name. People understand that working with the realtors is working with an ethical practitioner in the business, and so those are the things that we'll continue to do on both sides of the fence.
And I love that. And first of all, I love the way you lead, how you have really stepped into this role of leadership. And I just want to congratulate because honestly, Ashley, it is tough. I know I gave you a hard time when we first came into like, okay, it's the women that are behind the growth, but you just are there and you've been behind them supporting each of
Absolutely.
the leaders that have been in the space. But you also have brought your own unique personality and action to the organization. So,
Thank you.
as we wrap up, Ashley, I want to always make it fun.
Yes.
And so I do a fast five. And I want you to just first things that come to mind, because I think this is a fun portion of it.
Okay.
So I grew up in the South. Okay. And so I know you're from California, but here's my question to you. What's your preference? Fried chicken or sweet barbecue like we just had in Tulsa?
Oh, I'm a fried chicken person.
You're
Yeah.
fried chicken. Okay.
Mm.
Early morning strategy session or late night brainstorming, which is preferable?
Early morning.
You're an
Early.
early morning.
I'm an
Wow.
early morning person. Yeah, I'll
I
fall
am a
asleep. I don't even watch movies in the evening. I fall asleep on them. So,
I'm a late night person.
okay.
A book or podcast that's influenced you. Which one and what's why?
Well, that so there's a book that I read every year. It's called In the Pit with the Lion on a Snowy Day, right? And it talks about our challenges that they can always get worse. So you're in the pit, and then now it starts to snow, right? And you're trying to get out of this pit. And so I really love that book. It's funny because I'll buy like 10, 15 books a year and I'll just hand them out to people. So you have to
All
check
right, wait. The name of the book is In the Pit
with the Lion on a Snowy Day. I believe
with
that.
the lion
Oh,
on a
yes.
snowy day. Wow, I've got to get, I have not seen that. I have not read that book, so I'm gonna have to get that.
Yes.
So so thank you for that.
Yes.
So the music that gets you energized before a big event, what is it?
So what is the music? Energized. So if I'm really like anxiety, right, then I'll listen to more a little some gospel or something to kind of calm the atmosphere. But if it's something that's really exciting, definitely more of a hip hop type of, but old school. And what's funny is I don't even know what old school is anymore. I guess that's my generation, so I'd say 90s. I guess that's old school now, because I don't understand a lot of the new stuff today. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I like the old school stuff too. So, and isn't that funny that 90s is old school,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I reject the notion, but
Me too. Can't believe that. All right, so one word that describes the legacy you hope to leave as NAREB president.
committed. I think.
Committed. I love
Yeah,
that.
I'm committed.
All right. Well, Ashley, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your vision, and for the work that you're doing and NAREB, right? To, all the work that they're doing to continue to expand opportunity and access across all our communities. So
Thank you, and I appreciate our partnership, and we're in this together, and I appreciate that.
absolutely. I think it's important for all these conversations that continue because it reminds us that progress just doesn't happen by chance. It happens through intention, like you're doing with your events, through collaboration and a shared commitment to ensuring that homeownership remains a pathway to
Yes.
stability and generational wealth for all. I think it's so important.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today for this session of Diversity Matters. Be sure to join us on our next episode, which is going to air on March 25th, where we're going to continue the conversation and spotlight more leaders who are shaping the future of our industry. And if today's discussion resonated with you, please, I encourage you to share it with a colleague or friend. and continue the dialogue within your own organizations and your communities. Make a difference, everyone. Until next time, remember when we lead with purpose and when we work together, meaningful change is always possible. I'm Teresa Palacios Smith, and this is Diversity.